One of them fought pain the whole world could see. The other carried pain no one would ever believe. Both of them survived. Only one of them was truly alone. This is Omniscient Reader versus Solo Leveling, and by the end, you will know which one you are. Forget the power rankings. Forget who wins in a fight. We're here to talk about something much harder to survive. Pain. Jin-woo carried visible pain. The whole world saw it and ignored it. Dokja carried invisible pain. He knew how the world ends, but couldn't tell a soul. Two wounds, both devastating. Which one cuts deeper? Let's start with the pain everyone saw. Jin-woo, E rank. The absolute lowest rank a hunter can hold. In a world where hunters are humanity's only protection against monsters, Jin-woo was so weak that when raid teams saw his name on the list, they relaxed. Not because he would help, because if the raid was desperate enough to include Jin-woo, the dungeon must be harmless. He knew this. He heard it regularly from people standing next to him. And here is what they did not know. Jin-woo was not in those dungeons because he wanted glory. He was there because his mother was in a hospital bed, and someone had to pay for it. His father had been missing for 10 years. He was 20. He was alone, and dungeons paid more than anything else he could do. So he bought the cheapest knife he could afford, and he walked in every time. His healer once asked him, "Aren't you worried? You always come back injured." He said 4 words, "I'm used to it." Think about what it takes to say that, not as a lie, as a fact. This is a person who got so accustomed to pain that it stopped registering as something unusual. He normalized it because there was no one to tell and no time to feel it. Then came the double dungeon. 17 hunters go in. Most of them die. The ones who survived need to escape, but someone has to stay behind. Jin-woo had already lost his right leg. He was bleeding. He could not stand properly. He volunteered anyway, not because the story needed a hero in that moment, because that is the decision a person makes when they have already accepted that their pain does not matter enough to stop them. That is not strength. That is a person who was never taught that their own suffering was worth protecting. The system found him in that dungeon, and it made him the only player in the world. But here is what I want you to notice. The system did not give Jin-woo something new. It gave him a way to do what he was already doing, but stronger. He was already grinding. He was already showing up in impossible situations. He was already deciding every single day that he was worth less than the mission. The system just gave that decision a level up screen. Jin-woo's pain is the pain of visibility without dignity. Everyone could see he was the weakest, and everyone chose every single time to let him keep going without once asking if he was okay. That is a specific kind of wound, and millions of people recognized it the second they read Chapter 1. Dokja, ordinary office worker. No rank, no title, no power. When the apocalypse begins, when the sky cracks open and a system appears in front of every human on Earth, Dokja is on the subway, reading. He is reading the final chapter of a web novel that almost no one else knows exists. A story called 3 Ways to Survive in a Ruined World. He has been reading it for years, and he is the only person who ever read it to the end. Let that sit for a second. While everyone around him is screaming, while the world is ending, while humanity's survival becomes a question, Dokja already knows the answer. He knows which scenarios are coming. He knows which people will become powerful. He knows which choices lead to survival and which ones lead to death. He knows everything, and he cannot tell anyone. Not because he is not allowed, Because there is no way to say, I know how this ends because I spent years reading a web novel that no one else cared about, without sounding completely insane. So he keeps it inside. He guides people, carefully, quietly, in directions that keep them alive. He makes decisions that look like luck from the outside, but are actually the weight of knowing. And nobody asks him how he knows. They just assume he is lucky. Now I want you to understand what this actually costs. Imagine knowing. Imagine watching people around you make choices that you know will hurt them, and you cannot stop them without explaining a secret that no one would believe. Imagine carrying the weight of an ending that you have already read, while everyone else is living the beginning. Imagine being the only witness to a story that the entire world is now inside, but you are the only one who knows it is a story. That is not power. That is isolation at a level most people will never have a word for. And here is the detail that destroys me every time I think about it. The novel Kim Dokja spent years reading, the one he was the only person to finish, was not a bestseller. It was not popular. It was barely noticed. He chose to stay. Chapter after chapter, year after year, when everyone else moved on to something more popular, Kim Dokja stayed. Because he cared about the story. Because he believed in it when no one else did. And then the story became real. And suddenly, the thing he had carried alone for years, the knowledge, the investment, the quiet dedication, became the only thing standing between humanity and extinction. But no one knew that. No one knew what he had been carrying. No one knew how long he had been carrying it. They just saw a lucky office worker who seemed to know things he should not know. Jin-woo's pain had a rank. It had a number. It had a name. Everyone could point to it. Kim Dokja's pain had no rank, no number, no name. It was invisible. And in some ways, invisible pain is the hardest kind to survive. Because you cannot even ask for help.
You do not have proof that you need it.
So, who understands pain better? Here is my answer. Solo leveling is the pain of being seen as less than you are. Omniscient reader is the pain of not being seen at all. Two different wounds, both entirely real. If solo leveling hit you harder, you know what it feels like to be dismissed. You know what it means to keep showing up after the world has already decided you aren't worth betting on. If Omniscient reader hit you harder, you have been carrying something alone. You know what it means to carry a heavy truth and have no one around you believe it. Neither is wrong, because the best manhwa doesn't just entertain you. It looks at the exact pain you are hiding and says, I see it. So I want to ask you, genuinely, which one found you? And what were you carrying when it did? Drop it in the comments, because your answer tells a story about exactly where you were in your life. This is ManhwaPhoenix, and this is what we do here. Not power rankings, not who wins in a fight. We talk about why these stories actually matter, why they found you at the moment they did, and what that says about who you were then and who you are now. If this is the kind of content you want more of, subscribe, hit the bell. I post every week, and drop your answer in the comments. Solo leveling or omniscient reader? Which one? And when? I read every comment. See you next week, Phoenix fam.